The trial of Richard Satchwell for the murder of his wife Tina in 2017 has begun before a jury in Cork. Now, prosecution barrister Gerardine Small outlined the case to the jury when the trial got underway yesterday. What did she tell the jury that Richard Satchwell had said when he was arrested following the discovery of a body at his own house in October 2023?
Yeah, so Pat, Gerardine Small began the trial here in Dublin yesterday with an overview of some of the evidence the jury might be hearing over the next few weeks. Now, Pat, it's very important to clarify that this was an overview only and is not evidence itself. That will be heard over the next few weeks. So Richard Satchwell was arrested on the 12th of October 2023 after decomposed human remains were found in black sheeting in a 3-foot grave that had been concreted over. Now, Miss Small said Richard Satchwell then told Gardaí a series of events which was completely different, she said, from the one he had consistently told since Tina was reported missing in March 2017. Now, she said the jury would hear that on the 20th of March 2017, Richard Satchwell had woken up early and had been in a shed at the back of the house and he was doing some jobs. He said he then went back inside the house at around 9 a.m. to find his wife Tina at the bottom of the stairs, and she was scraping plasterboard, which he had installed with a chisel. Now, the prosecution then said Richard Satchwell told Gardaí that Tina had flew at him with the chisel when he asked her what she was doing, and then she had tried to stab him in the head with the chisel. Now, in the struggle, he said he falls backwards and is trying to defend himself, can only find a belt, and was holding up her weight at around neck level with the belt before her body became limp and she died. And Miss Small says the jury will hear evidence from that interview in which she says Richard Satchwell said he put Tina's body in a chest freezer out in the shed at the back of the house before bringing her back inside and burying her some days later.
Now, what did the prosecutor say that Richard Satchwell had told the Gardaí when Tina was first reported missing way back in 2017?
Yeah, so Pat, the jury were told that they will hear evidence that Richard Satchwell consistently said his wife had asked him to go to Dungarvan, which is in County Waterford, to do some shopping at Aldi, and that when he returned, she was just gone. He went to Fermoy Garda station on the 24th of March to report to them that he had not seen Tina for 4 days, that she had left him, but that he wasn't overly concerned for her welfare, and that this had happened because of deterioration in their marital relationship. Now, that wasn't a formal missing persons report at the time, and he said her phone was left on the kitchen counter and her keys were on the floor to their house at number 3 Grattan Street in Youghal. And he also told Gardaí that around €26,000 that they had in cash savings in the attic had been taken, along with 2 suitcases of Tina's clothing. She'd also left without her 2 dogs, whom, she loved. She considered them her children, with Miss Small saying that Richard Satchwell had told Gardaí at the time that he figured she had left the dogs as it would be easier to get accommodation.
Now, Richard Satchwell told the Gardaí investigating the disappearance of his wife about her personality in a statement 2 months after she was first reported missing back in 2017. What did the jury hear about that?
Yeah, so apart from the outline, some evidence was heard yesterday, and the jury did hear evidence that Richard Satchwell told Detective Garda Aidan Dardis from Youghal Garda Station that Tina had violent outbursts, Pat. The statement from the 15th of May 2017, that was read into the record by the prosecutor, Gerardine Small, and was Richard Satchwell describing how prior to moving to Youghal, that she would tell him she hated him, and then minutes later would be this change and she would be in his arms. He said in the statement that she would slap him around once a week, and that she would hit him and draw blood, that she would hit him with whatever came to hand at the time and take out her frustrations in life, take those out on him. He said she wore the trousers in the relationship while he was a bit of a walkover. And in another statement to Gardaí in May 2017, Richard Satchwell said he thinks Tina has an undiagnosed psychiatric condition, and in another statement that she would have been too vain to have done anything to harm herself and is in love with herself.
Now, the prosecution maintains there are inconsistencies in Richard Satchwell's story, or stories, plural. So what did the jury get to hear in the outline of the prosecution case?
Yeah, so exactly, Pat. In that outline, Gerardine Small told the jury that they will hear evidence about a number of what she described as inconsistencies during the course of the trial. And one example comes from the commissioning of a forensic accountant who concluded the Satchwells did not have the capacity to save €26,000. Now, another relates to CCTV footage, which Miss Small says will show Richard Satchwell at Youghal Post Office collecting his dole after 11 a.m. on the 20th of March 2017, which she says was totally contrary to his claim of being in Dungarvan in County Waterford at the time. And also, the couple were regulars. There were regulars at car boot sales in Cork or all around the area. And Gardaí had spoken to some other regulars who said Mr. Satchwell had told them that Tina was not with him in the wake of her disappearance because she'd had a respiratory infection, that she'd lost 4 stone and was staying with her sister in England. So the jury will hear evidence of that over the next couple of weeks.
Now, what do we know about the history of this couple?
So Gerardine Small told the jury the couple had been married for 25 years and had been married on Tina's 20th birthday, had eventually moved from the UK to Ireland, back to Fermoy in North Cork, where Tina was originally from, and that eventually, Pat, they'd settled in Youghal in 2016. That's in East Cork. In evidence yesterday, Garda James Butler said he took a statement from Richard Satchwell in May 2017, in which Richard Satchwell said he had first met Tina in March 1989. And it's in this statement where Mr. Satchwell mentioned the undiagnosed psychiatric condition he thought that he said Tina might have had, and that she would say things like she would rather die than take antidepressants. And that statement also included that years could go by without a crossword being spoken.
Finally, it's I suppose, a fascinating trial. Mention of pet monkeys, a chest freezer, and even quicklime.
Yes, and briefly on all 3 of those, Pat, the prosecution told the jury that they will hear evidence about an email being sent from a laptop on the 20th of March 2017 at 10:42. It was an email from Richard Satchwell to what was described as an international monkey rescue organization about efforts to purchase or adopt 2 monkeys and the difficulties that Richard Satchwell was having. He said in that email that his wife would leave him if he did not get these monkeys. Now, to quicklime, a search for quicklime on the same day was discovered on a device, and a video had been viewed. And I suppose in terms of a chest freezer, the jury will hear evidence that Richard Satchwell advertised a chest freezer on Done Deal on the 31st of March 2017 for free, despite having initially offered it to one of Tina's family. Now, Richard Satchwell has pleaded not guilty to the murder of Tina Satchwell, and the trial at the Central Criminal Court in Dublin continues this morning.
Jamie, thank you very much for joining us. That's our Southern reporter, Jamie O'Hara, reporting from the Richard Satchwell murder trial.